Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. This article is not going to be popular with a lot of people, but I don't care. I care about what I think is the truth, and the key word is what I think. How do I get that? I get that from information, knowledge, intelligence, and patterns. We're going to talk here about Ukraine and how no one would care if it's still there or not after probably this war will wipe it. Not its butt, but its existence, unfortunately. I'm speaking not because I wish that. I'm speaking because this is like a warning that the Ukrainians should have in their heads while they are aligning themselves with certain global forces that really see only their interest. And Ukrainians are used in this one. Now, I can use the same rhetoric talking about the country of Romania, which I'm very familiar with. And again, Romania, if there is a Romania on the world map, not too many will give up, unfortunately. But that's how life is. How many, countries, empires existed and then they disappeared and we kept going with our lives. In this case, we have Mr. Medvedev, the former president of the Russian Federation, and he makes some statements that I agree with, unfortunately. Because he's right now he's a bad dude, and he was a good dude when he said what he was supposed to say and be on the team of the people who consider themselves as good. So let's read this little article coming from Ukrainska Pravda from today, the 8th of April 2023. And I'm reading the headline, "It will disappear as no one cares about it." Deputy Secretary of Russian Security Council, and I'm quoting, predicting future of Ukraine. Dmitry Medvedev, Deputy Secretary of the Russian Security Council, has said that Ukraine, and I'm quoting, will disappear because no one cares about it, end quote. Details. Medvedev's article is titled, and I'm quoting, "Why will Ukraine disappear? Because no one cares about it," end quote. After that, he, and I'm quoting, argues that Russia does not need Ukraine, while the former has been waging a full-scale war for over a year and is trying to occupy the latter's territory. Well, this is a very flimsy, low IQ interpretation of what's going on in Ukraine. Actually, if you want to just take bits and pieces from a situation, that's your choice, but that's not telling or at least not trying to find the truth or tell about it. Medvedev does not say that Europe, the US, Africa, and Latin America, Asia, and Russia do not need Ukraine either. Now, in the end, Medvedev says that Ukrainians do not need Ukraine as they have defended themselves against the Russian army for over 400 days. Again, this is just a little piece of mantra. That's all. Medvedev also referred to the, and I'm quoting, offspring of the USSR. One of the core lies of the Russian propaganda is that Soviet Union created Ukraine and it never existed before that, and Great Russia, end quote. Now, and earlier, Medvedev claimed that Russia started the war because Ukraine was part of Russia. Well, again, this is just bad rhetoric coming from Medvedev. Now, if you look at this thing here, Soviet Union created Ukraine, it never existed before that. This article obviously comes from Ukraine and it says the core lie. Well, I have, and if you just bother to check historical events, you will find out that Soviet Union helped Ukraine become as is right now after 1991 by grabbing territories from the neighboring countries. It was not Ukraine who got them by their own virility, but it was the Soviet Communist USSR with its Trotskys and its Kaganoviches and Berias and Stalins, all these Russians. Okay, so if you look at Ukrainian map, you're going to find out territories from all surrounding neighbors. So Medvedev is not telling, how should I put it, a big lie here. He's just saying something that you should know. Look, for instance, at Transcarpathia. Look, for instance, in the Lviv area. Look in the north of Ukraine. Look, if you want, in Moldova, taken down. Look at Bukovina. All these are just surrounding. Look at Crimea. All these. Look at Donbas. All these territories did not belong to a Ukrainian state. Look at it. The first time Ukraine is as a Ukraine, it's 1918. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that just because I'm an evil guy or making, what's his name, Medvedev's point, but you check it. And if you find a Ukrainian state with Ukrainian people, with Ukrainian language and Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian institutions and Ukrainian name, then yes, don't give me the Kiev Rus, okay? Do not give me that one, right? Just go ahead and try. And I'm not saying because I'm bad, I'm just saying that this is a Ukrainian article, and let's focus on the matter. This was not a matter, this was just as a matter of fact. So yes, nobody will care about that, as nobody would care if Romania will be still there or not. The problem here is that, in my assessment, Ukraine is just used by international and global interest, which is money and power. That's all. And it's not hard to look who's fueling this war and who's attacking whom and who's defending what. All this on two issues that the Ukrainians are riled up against. One is the love of Russians, right? And the second one is the fact that they want to, belong to the West, as Romania wanted to belong to the West, just because. Remember, every time you get in an alliance or a union, you give up some of your sovereignty, an independence somewhere. And yes, you're going to eat better, you're going to drive better cars if you work. You might have a financial, I don't want to say stable situation, but more fruitful life. But your country, your culture, your people, your nation will be changed forever by the new leaders, which in this case will be Brussels, and some people commanding these things from Washington, D.C. They are not the changers. No, they're not the changers. These are just the guys with authority and power to change things. These ideas come from somewhere else. Remember, I don't think that Ursula von der Leyen comes and supports all kind of stupid ideas, cultural ideas, or a changing of, societies. Look at Hungary, for instance. It fights back, and Poland. I don't think she wakes up. There are certain things that some other people come up with. Who are those people? And why are they doing that? Well, it can't be but someone who's very frustrated with the things as they're ran. Imagine that you have a household, and I'm assuming you live in a family, and you are the head of the family. And all of a sudden, you have in this family, your children, they will change. They don't want us as a family to wash our hands anymore because that it's, patriarchy. All right, but that's bad. Don't wash your hands, but that's patriarchy. Then let's say they don't want to say good morning or good night. For whatever the time may be, in the morning or in the evening, because that is, I don't know, it's too tyrannical. Or let's say they don't want to sit at the table. They don't want to use napkins to wipe their mouths. They just want to use their, like that. That's because the rules are bad, are imposed by you, and you're a tyrant. Imagine all things and look at those children. What family do you think will be? What would be the end result of that family? Let's say they say, well, we all do whatever we want here. We're not united. I do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want in this household, and you can't stop me because you're a bad dude. Why? Because you're tyrannical or whatever that might be. Well, who are these kids? Who gave them these ideas? There must be someone who hates your family. It can be your kid because your kid, a kid goes to school. The kid watches movies. They speak with other kids. So these ideas come from somewhere else who, incidentally, don't necessarily love your family. That's a destruction of your family. So the same thing happens in the European Union, in the United States of America, and will happen in Ukraine as well. And if Ukraine exists or not, do you think the Germans will care? I don't think so. And vice versa. I don't think the Ukrainians would care if the Germans are still there as a nation or not. So Medvedev, I think he's just too realistic or straightforward saying that. Of course, if you ask him about Russia, probably he's going to sing a different tune, saying, oh, we got this culture, we got this, we got this number, and so on. But the same is true for Russia as well. All right, because we come and go. It's our duty to stand up and fight for, our culture, our nation, our families, and whatever our tradition, history, and so on. The Ukrainians are just putting that on the line because, historically they don't love the Ukrainians, and the Russians, and the Russians don't love Ukrainians necessarily. But anyway, that's the reality. Can they coexist? Yeah, they can coexist. The problem you have the outsiders who go and stick their tail in, and they tell these guys how to live their lives. All right? The same thing is in the Middle East. I think those guys over there can get along just fine if there's not at least the third party coming in and, no, you go, if you know what I mean. And the same in the Korean Peninsula and in many, many areas on this planet. Without the third party, this world was okay. But the third party comes over and, sometimes makes things worse than they were. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.